on in, it gets interesting. And we want to make sure we can look back on this. So Mia, I will leave the floor with you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sinead. And thank you, lovely ladies, for these introductions. I hope one day I can be as inspirational as you and start by introducing myself saying, my name is Mia, I'm the founder of XYZ. So I really, really hope that. I'm so excited to have you all here and to present to you the power of our platforms and how it can help your brands. You are definitely on the right, you're in the right meeting, discussing the right solutions on our platforms. So that's definitely amazing. One thing I noticed is that everybody here, like we're all women here, so yay to women empowerment as well. Hopefully
there is one of the guys from Mohamed Salus and Ikavish, but he is all about women empowerment, so we all accept him in this group.
We're inclusive, it's okay. Okay, awesome. So let me start. Today, the session, I believe you started with a session about measurement.
Correct.
How measurement is a crucial element in the whole advertising space, let's say, because that's how basically marketeers are able to do data-driven decisions. So today what we're going to talk about is our solutions on the platform. So what are our targeting capabilities on the platform, and what are our signals, and how do we define these targeting capabilities based on which signals? And in light of everything that's happening in the ecosystem, in the advertising ecosystem, also there are new updates, so it's good for you as well to learn about that. Let me share my screen. Let me know when you can see it, please. Okay. 1 second. Okay.
Yeah, perfect.
Screen?
Yeah.
Okay, very quickly about myself, because I forgot to introduce myself actually. So my name is Mia Lahoud, obviously. I'm Lebanese, so shout out to the Lebanese brand here. I've been working at Meta for the past 3 years and a half. I started my journey working on e-commerce businesses. So the likes of, if you're based in GCC, you probably would know Namshi, Noon, Souq, previously known, now known as Amazon. So I used to manage these clients, and then I moved to Dubai and I shifted verticals completely. I'm now working on beauty, luxury, and retail. And basically my role is to, if you want, I'm the go-to person for everything related to performance marketing, how to optimize your campaigns to make sure that you are spending your dollar and making use out of it, right? So that's basically my role. Today, we're going to cover people-based targeting and signals, as I mentioned already. We're going to start first with people-based targeting. And I think this is super relevant, especially since you are launching new brands now. So how can you reach these very relevant people and make sure that they are seeing your ad, they know your brand, you are building awareness, consideration, and ultimately moving them to the lower funnel for them to convert, right? And becoming loyal customers. So with Meta, you can actually deliver people-based marketing at every single stage of the consumer journey. We have a product or a solution that caters for each specific funnel.
You need to update the app or something.
I think someone is asking a question, or I'm not sure. No? Okay.
No, I muted him. It's okay.
Okay, cool. So yeah, as I was saying, on Meta particularly, we have multiple solutions to cover any funnel, basically, when it comes to awareness or maybe demand generation or acquiring new customers and eventually leading them to an actual transaction and building a loyalty across the whole funnel as well. We have solutions that cater for that. But today, what I'm going to focus on mainly is our targeting suite. So what are the capabilities that we have in terms of targeting? Now, I'm not sure how many people here are familiar with our platforms and what we have to offer. Perhaps you have a separate team that does media buying for you, that does media planning as well for you. In any case, this would be a good refresher on what we have. So there are three main targeting options that we do. One is core targeting. So that's basically looking at broad audiences, maybe based on interests, maybe based on behavior. It could be hair care interests, it could be beauty, cosmetics, etc. Or a custom audience. So here we rely on the first party data that you guys can share with us so that we make sure that you are able to retarget these high value customers that you have. And then finally, we have a third one, third targeting option, which is lookalikes. And lookalikes is a very unique targeting option, because what we do there is we take the seed audience, so your very high valuable audience, and we create an audience out of it that has very similar attributes. So it could be, for example, people who have bought twice in the past 6 months. It can be people who visited your website, viewed something, viewed an item, added to cart, but didn't actually purchase. So you can create a lookalike of these people who really have a high purchase intent and retarget them, retarget people who look like them. So that's the power of this criteria. Now, this option, sorry. So we're going to go through every single option separately, starting first with the core audiences. So if we, yeah. So as I said, when it comes to core audiences, we have multiple options that we have multiple things that we can use. It's either interests or behavior. So people who like shopping, for example, or people who are interested in hair care, beauty, anything really, not just these verticals, any vertical, any topic that you might think of. It can even be a soap opera that people watch on TV. Like you can go to these details as well. And just to ensure that you are really targeting the people that you want on our platform. And it's not just that, it can also cover devices and connections. So you can choose to target people on the desktop or on the mobile or both. Ideally, we recommend combining both, obviously. You can even choose to target a specific operating system. So let's say, if you know for a matter of fact that your target is basically iOS users, let's say, you can actually go on our ads manager, which is the dashboard where you create your ads, and really specify, like, I want to just target people who are interested in beauty, and then I want to target them only on iOS 14 devices, for example. And not only can you include, but you can also exclude a few people. So for example, if you don't want to target Android users, or you don't want to target a specific version of the Android or a specific version of the iOS, this is also something that you can exclude in the targeting. So really the number of combinations that you can do is limitless, basically. You can also target by location. Yes, so you can also target by location, and this occurs at the ad set level. You'll have a session, I think, next week where we talk about the fundamentals of Meta's platform and where you actually buy media. We call it a business manager, and under this business manager, you would have ads manager, which is like an account, if you want, for every brand that you have. And on that ads manager, you can, while setting up your campaigns, you can choose different locations. You can choose, for example, a whole country. You can choose a region. You can specify the radius that you want in that region. So really, you can play around a lot and do whatever you feel is best for your brand. And you can test different strategies as well to see what works. And also, when it comes to the location, it's not just about targeting everybody in that location. You could also target people who live in that location particularly, or who have recently been in this location, or perhaps who are traveling to a specific country or a specific region. And the way the system detects that is obviously through the IP address, which is refreshed quite in kind of in real time. So that's something also that you can leverage. For example, if you know, if you're targeting people, if you want to target expats, let's say, or not expats, visitors or tourists who are coming to UAE for sunscreen, for example, during summer, because it's essential, you can also make sure that you are targeting not just everybody in this location, but also maybe people who are traveling to this location as well. This is like just a random example. I'm not saying this is what you should do. Okay, so we have location. We covered devices, connections, locations, and now interest targeting, which is what I mentioned earlier. So you can actually look at people's interest activity. You can either include pages, posts, or any interaction that they might have done and included in your targeting strategy. Now, as best practice, when it comes to media planning and media buying and performance of the campaign, if we are talking overall across the funnel, whether it's awareness or consideration or lower funnel, we recommend to be as broad as possible where it makes sense, because you would be helping the system getting more signals, and therefore the algorithm will optimize properly for your end goal, which is either driving awareness or driving traffic to your website, or the ultimate goal, the ultimate KPI, which is driving sales, right? But it's good to know that you have an unlimited list of interests and behavior that you can leverage in your targeting strategy. That's it on the core audience. Moving to the custom audience data. So as I said earlier, a custom audience is kind of a pool of audience that we create out of your first party data. So you would share with us, so there are multiple ways actually of doing that. One is you sharing with us first party data. So if you have, let's say, a website or you have an offline store, I'm not sure if this is the case for any of the people here, you have this offline data that you can actually upload. You know, people who, for example, submitted to a loyalty program that you have, or people who bought from your shop, etc. So you would use this first party data, upload it on our platform. We would create a custom audience out of it. All the data would be hashed and encrypted, so we do not have access to anything. We cannot see who is in the custom audience at all because it's hashed. And then you can use this custom audience to for your targeting approach. And here mainly it would be like for retargeting strategies. For example, if you know people who have bought recently, you want them to buy again. So here it would fall under the retention approach. You could leverage custom audiences. Another way you can use custom audiences is based on Facebook Pixel and the mobile SDK. Now, a pixel and an SDK are basically a piece of code that we install on your website or on your app that allows us to track what people are doing on which stage are they. So for example, if I'm being served an ad of any of the beauty brands that were mentioned today, and then I click on it, I go to the website. If you have a pixel or that code that is installed on your website, and we're going to go through these details later on, but just very quickly, if it's installed, it will fire, for example, a view content event because I saw that particular item on your website. So this is the type of data that the pixel and the SDK would be gathering. And you can actually create a custom audiences, some custom audiences out of these signals so that you also retarget them as well. And this also falls under retargeting and retention. A third way to use custom audiences is by, for example, creating an audience cluster of people who viewed a video ad that you ran for that you've been running, for example, and you want to retarget those who viewed 50% of the video, or those who completed the whole video view, for example. You can also create this custom audience and use it in your targeting. And any of the options that I've just mentioned, you can use these custom audiences and create lookalikes out of them as well. I think we covered this, the audience sources. So as I said, it can be a data file, which is your first party data. It can be based on our signals, which is website and mobile app, or engagement custom audiences, which could be based on people who viewed a video, people who submitted a lead form on your website, for example, people who sent messages to your page, etc., etc. If needed, we can have another session where we go through Ads Manager and show you exactly where and how you can create these custom audiences, because I think that would be also super beneficial. So how does it work exactly? You have your data and you have the Facebook data. And when you upload it, this is how we are able to match the audiences that you shared with us versus the audiences that we see on our platforms. And this is how we are able to create the custom audiences. But again, we wouldn't have any visibility on who is in the custom audience exactly, because everything is hashed and we cannot see that data. Okay, this is on the custom audience. Finally, we have the lookalike audience. So with lookalike audience, what's pretty cool about it is that it can be used for both if you want acquisition and retargeting strategies, depending on what, based on what you're building the lookalike audience. But it's also very effective and efficient because it helps you find people who share very similar attributes or characteristics with people who already expressed interest in your business. So again, depending on if you share with us your first party data, so you know these people are very loyal to the brand, you know these people already bought, you can actually create a lookalike audience out of them who have the same characteristics. So people who are most likely also gonna end up buying from you, or most likely are gonna end up being a loyal customer, and you can retarget those, but they would be new audiences, kind of, if that makes sense. So how do you create lookalike audiences? It can be done via the custom audiences, which is what I just covered earlier, or page fans, or engagement custom audiences, which is based on the video views, for example, lead gen submissions, people who engage with the post, who clicked on like, reacted, commented, etc. This is these are basically the sources for lookalike audiences. So why is it so powerful? Because one, you are using highly relevant seed audiences through data segmentation, but you're clubbing them. You're using high quality data. You can, ideally it's to avoid broad lookalike audience sources, but make it more like really focus on what is your audience seed, what is the exact audience that I want to focus on and I want to build this lookalike on, and create that, rather than, for example, building a lookalike of everybody who's interested in luxury, then creating a lookalike out of it wouldn't really make sense. And then the lookalike audience has higher quality, even if the audience size is not as big as going broad, for example. But the quality of the audience is very high, and that's a very important element. That's it on the targeting capabilities. Before I go into the signals part, do you guys have any questions?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
So my question is, assuming that we're launching in a new market, which is actually my current case. So for the last 2 years, I've been operating in Lebanon, and about 6 months ago, we launched in the UAE. So I do not have custom audiences data of lookalike or other audiences for people in the UAE. For example, does Facebook or Meta provides us with lookalike audiences, or do we have to create ones from scratch, or like how does it work actually? Does it make sense what I just said?
Yeah,
Okay.
It makes sense. So we do not share this, we do not share lookalike data with advertisers. You guys own this whole thing. This is your data. You can do whatever you want with it. So we do not share with you a specific lookalike audience. But for your question, what you can do, you can leverage the existing data that you have. You said you started in Lebanon and now you want to expand to UAE, or is it the opposite?
Correct.
Okay. So what you can do is you can use this first party data that you have from Lebanon, and you can create a lookalike audience out of it, but in UAE, and use it in UAE. So this is something that you can do, for example.
This is for the lookalike. Sorry, can we go back to the slide where you said upload your data and have Facebook match, and then there's like a mutually inclusive hexagon that shows after the slide? Yeah. What if the first part does not exist?
Which is this one, your data.
My data, correct. Because my data is not relevant to a new market.
Okay, so in that case, do you have a website?
Yes, we do. But it's a new website. So it's a new website because it's, yeah. So what happened is I've separated the IP addresses to have only Lebanon as one, and then the international market as another. And so the new website is a new website, has new data, almost
Okay.
non-existent.
That's clear. It's fine. So if you don't have first party data that you can leverage, so maybe you can disregard the first part, even though that's the ideal because this is your own data and you know how valuable it is. But we can look at the other two sources that you can use, which is custom audiences from your website or mobile app if you have an app, even if it's a nascent website or you just recently launched it. You can create a website custom audience out of it, and slowly, when you are running your full funnel campaigns or when you are tapping into awareness and driving traffic to your website, this audience will start building slowly.
Okay.
It would take time. This is the case for any brand building.
Got it. Yeah.
So this is something that you can use. Another option that you can use is the engagement custom audiences. So I'm pretty sure your pages are active. You've been active in Lebanon for a very long time. So you can create a custom audience out of people who viewed or who interacted with your page. Do you have a local page or it's like one page?
No, I just have one page. Yeah.
So you can use that, for example. You can create a custom audience of everybody who messaged your business in the past, like specify the time frame.
Okay.
If you have videos, you can retarget people who viewed this video, because if they actually viewed it fully, it means that they are interested, that you already captured their attention. So
yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any more questions?
I had a question as well. I think it's very similar to what Rosemary was asking. And I think for a lot of us, because we are such young companies, you know, our data is limited. So while, you know, we've had the website up for a few months now, it's still a very new company. Our brand awareness is still quite limited. So and as far as our own data when building campaigns, I think we might have to look beyond that. So when it comes to the lookalike audiences, I'm not familiar with how much we can, like, is it possible to target, like build a lookalike audience, for example, of people who shop at Faces or Beauty Nation, or people who use and purchase a similar competitive product that would also be interested in our product, perhaps? Like, can you do it that way as well?
So not really, because the competitors' data, it's their own data, and they are the only ones who can create a lookalike audience out of it. Remember, when you create a lookalike audience, it's based from a custom audience. And how do you create that? It's based on first-party data or website signals or app signals or the engagement custom audience. And this is a data that you do not have. If you want to target like people who are interested in competition or in competitive brands, I would recommend going with the first targeting option that we mentioned, which is the core audience. And in the interest section, you would add all the list of competitors that you have.
Okay, so you can do it that way. You can add the competitors into their interests of got it. Okay.
Yes.
And then from that you can build, if I'm understanding correctly, would you then build a lookalike audience based upon that, or no, you wouldn't even have to because it's already in the custom audience?
You wouldn't even have to create a lookalike audience out of it, not because it's in the custom audience, but because it's in the core audience that you have. So you are basically, when you're putting these interests on Ads Manager, when creating your campaigns as a targeting criteria, you're telling the system, I want to reach people who have shown interest in brand X, Y, Z, who are competitors to my brand. That's basically what you're saying. When you're doing custom audiences, you're telling the system, I want to reach, again, people who bought from me, people who viewed an item on my website, people who added something to cart, or people who watched my video, etc., etc. The third bucket, which is the lookalike, it's essentially, it has to come from a custom audience creation, which is your data, regardless if it's first-party data or website pixel signal, etc., etc. And you're telling the system, I want to reach people who have very similar attributes to this seed audience that I find very valuable. So these are three different thinking and approaches, if that makes sense.
Yep, it does. Thank you.
Okay. Any more questions? No? Okay. And just by the way, in the session next week, when you go through like the fundamentals of Business Manager, creating Ads Manager, etc., I think you'll understand even more how you can create these things, because if I'm not mistaken, there will be a demo. And if that's not the case, I'm more than happy to have another session with you guys just to go through it and just show you how you can set it up. Okay. Moving to signals. So, as I said before, we have two types of signals. We have the pixel, what we call a pixel, and an SDK. So both cater to the same thing, both do like, it's the same concept across both types of signals, whether it's on your website or on your app if you have an app. This pixel or SDK, it's like a piece of code that we add to your site so that we are able to get a complete view of the customer journey. Okay, so that's very essential for every e-commerce business that is launching on our website, because this is how, one, you'll be able to have this complete view, understand your customer journey and pain points, and leverage these signals to your own benefit, because this is your data, and use them for retargeting, for retention, as well for prospecting, etc., etc. So these are the two types of signals that we have. So what is a Facebook pixel? It helps you build an audience based on action that people take on your site, using, for example, specific rules. This is particularly when leveraging Facebook pixel for your targeting. So for example, as I was saying before, you can create a custom audience based on website pixel or Facebook SDK, right? Or Meta SDK. So when creating these custom audiences, you can set up these rules. Like you can say, I want to create a custom audience of people who from this pixel, I know that they actually maybe bought twice in the past 3 months, for example. And then you can create a custom audience out of it. And it helps you understand how your customers have moved between different touch points. So, you know, when you see an ad, or when you just go to the website, forget the ad just for a second, you land on the home page, and then if you click on an item, you land on the product page, and then maybe you add it to cart, you go to the basket, you initiate checkout, you add your payment information, and then you end up buying. So when you have a pixel that is implemented across, that is properly implemented across your website and throughout the whole user journey, you really have a good understanding of, okay, maybe the drop between, let's say, initiate checkout and purchases is very, very low. Then you would start asking questions. Is the journey on my website, is the user journey seamless, for example? Yes or no? You would debug, you would see, you would maybe optimize your website accordingly. This is talking about the website specifically. On our platforms, how do we use that? This is particularly applicable on performance marketing. So on any conversion campaign that you have that is specifically optimized towards you guys driving a sale for your business. And this is how we are able to track how many people bought. And this is how we are able to track, to calculate the return on ad spend. So it's a very essential piece. So if any of you here do not have this implemented at the moment, I really do advise you either to do it in-house if you have the resources, or to get a developer on board and do that for you, but do it properly so that from the beginning you have the right fundamentals, because signals are the fundamentals for everything that is related to performance marketing. So just keep that in mind. And the last point, which the benefit of a pixel is, it actually helps you optimize for a conversion event. Whether you wanting to optimize for people to view an item on your website, or wanting to optimize for people to actually add stuff to their basket, or optimize for sales. If you don't have a pixel installed, you wouldn't be able to do that. And it's the same concept on SDK, right? It's just it's on the app, it's not on the website. So this is like a detailed description of how you should set up the pixel, what goes where, the description of what each event and parameter stands for and why it's important for a proper foundation. I'm not going to go through it like in details, but you will have, I think, this presentation at the end, and then you can go through it. And if you have any questions, please do let me know. But essentially, the standard events that we would that we recommend advertisers to implement are 3. View content, so people viewing an item on your website. Add to cart, people adding something to their basket. And then purchase, obviously people purchasing. These are the 3 standard events. But that does not mean that you cannot add additional events. As I was saying, it could be like a search event, people searching on the website using the actual search feature. Or it could be completed registrations, or it could be adding payment information. We wouldn't have any visibility over the details that are being submitted. It's just that the event would fire and you would know that this user is at this step of his journey at the moment. It can be initiating checkout, etc., etc. So we do have a long list of standard events, but the main ones that should be implemented for any basic e-commerce business are these 3. Now, under each event, we pass back what we call parameters. We have different parameters to track different things. So we have the content type. These are, again, the standard ones that should be available. We have the content type, which tells Meta if which specific product ID or like parent product ID that was seen or added to cart or purchased. This is the parent one. And then you have, and the type of it. And then you have the content ID, which is the actual SKU ID of the product that was viewed, added to cart or purchased. And then you have contents, which is the IDs. This is not really necessary, it's additional. This is the IDs, and on top of it, it's the quantity that was bought. Okay, so just keep these in mind when thinking, when implementing your pixel, if it's not done already. On top of pixel, I don't know if you recall, at the beginning of the presentation, I was talking about the whole signal loss challenge and the shift in the ecosystem. So if you recall last year, Apple released their latest, let's say, enforcement and latest attribution and measurement model, which allowed advertisers, which forced advertisers to change the whole way they measure, the whole way they track and everything. And if you recall, once you actually refreshed your operating system to iOS 14 plus, you started getting these messages like ask app to track or ask app not to track, right? So because there's this shift in the ecosystem where the signal and cookie-based strategies are no longer as strong and as efficient as before, what we are trying to move away from is this reliance on pixel, on browser pixel, and moving into what we call conversions API, or the previous server-to-server integration. And what this helps you with, this is, I think, a good presentation, good example. So how does it help you in your business? Before, we used to have the consumer who would go to the website, the client website, the brand's website, and then to the web browser, and then through the pixel event, the events would go to Facebook. So in our back-end server. So this is heavily relying on the pixel and heavily relying on the web browser. So web browser, I mean, the likes of Google Chrome, Safari, etc., etc. So what used to happen before, a lot of signals were lost from this while transitioning from here to here and then to here, right? So what we are trying to do with the Conversions API setup is to, instead of relying on the web browser event only, we would rely on the client server, which is a server that you guys own from your end. And once a consumer goes to your website, the data goes to your server, not to the web browser. It goes to your server, and then from the server, you have full visibility of what is being passed back, and you choose what to pass back to Facebook, to our server, which is why it's called a server-to-server integration. So this is now becoming like fundamental for every business to have Conversions API as well on top of Pixel. This does not come don't think that you would have to remove the Pixel and just rely on the server. It doesn't work that way. You should have both at the same time, but just making sure that there is no that both are capturing exactly the same events, and then you would see from CAPI, from Conversions API, what is the incremental event that is being captured by the server but wasn't being captured by the Pixel before. These are, I think, maybe it's a lot of technical terms and details, but it's I can share much more resources on that if you're not already familiar with the updates in the industry. I think it's also very good to share this as well with your developers if you are currently working on your website, or if it's already there and you don't have CAPI implemented. It's also a good a way to start this conversation with the dev team and make sure that this is implemented. So what are the solutions that are powered by the Pixel? One is targeting. As we said before, from the Pixel, you can create website custom audiences as well. You can just track everybody in the user journey. You can run dynamic ads, which is a pretty cool feature that we have, which are basically personalized, ads that rely on a catalog that you create out of all the inventory that you have on your website or on your app. And then based on different users' interests and behavior, they would be served different ads. So for example, you could be targeting males and females under the same campaign, under the same target, and leveraging dynamic ads. But I would see, for example, if I am targeted and then there's another person, a guy who is targeted as well, I would see, for example, female products related to female, whereas the guy would see more relevant products for him that are specifically for male. And this is the power of dynamic ads. You do not have to rely on segmenting your campaigns, male only, female only, etc., etc. It would really look at, it would leverage the signals that we have from the Pixel or the SDK, and it would serve the ad according to that. And then the last point, which is value-based lookalike audiences, this is another feature of lookalike audience that you can build based on value. So you can really specify, for example, people who bought for that specific value, I want to create a lookalike audience out of them. But this is not possible if you do not have a Pixel integrated. So very quickly on dynamic ads, as I said, it's a very personalized ad experience. We dynamically match the right products to the right person at scale in order to boost demand and sales. And you would use it for two different strategies. One is prospecting or broad audiences. So it allows you to expand your dynamic ads to reach beyond your website or app visitors and generate demand. And then we would take it down the funnel to retargeting and target people who have been to your site or app to generate sales. And this does not necessarily, obviously it needs a Pixel implementation on the website, but you don't have to create a custom audience and then use it in the campaign. It would dynamically, while setting up the campaign, you would set these criteria and it would serve the right ad to the right person at the right time, depending on where they are in the funnel. But how does it work exactly? I think I'm going to skip this one. Sorry, just one more point on retargeting. It also helps you in cross-selling and upselling. So we covered prospecting, which is going broad and allowing the system to serve the dynamic ad. We did retargeting, which is looking at whether people viewed, added to cart, but didn't buy in the past specific time frame that you want to put. And then there's the last two options, which is cross-selling and upselling. You can actually use these features with dynamic ad as well. And for cross-selling, for example, if someone bought product A and product B is a complementary of it, you can retarget those with that specific product. Or upselling, if someone bought in the past, I don't know, let's say someone bought for maybe just dropped the cart, bought something for like $10, but then you might have another a better product, for example, or another complementary product that makes more sense to buy it together, you would upsell it, you would retarget these people, and then share and serve a dynamic ad that have these specific SKUs that you want to upsell with. So that's also the power of dynamic ads as well. When it comes to the specifications, I'm not sure where that is. Yes. So what are the things that are required to create dynamic ads? Obviously, you need to have an inventory. And this, I mean, if you have your website, you already probably have a feed where you have all your inventory, right? So you would need to create that and upload it to our system. Once you upload it, after having Pixel implemented and everything put in place, you would create what we call catalogs. So catalogs is basically, it's exactly like the name, it's a catalog of all the inventories that you have. And then based on these catalogs, you would start creating what we call product sets. So for example, you have a product set, let's say your brand covers all cosmetics brand, it has skincare, makeup, and hair care. You can create a specific product set for skincare for each category specifically and push that, if that is your strategy. If you have a different strategy, let's say you have a summer sale offer, or you have Ramadan, or you have Black Friday and you have offers, you can create a specific product set out of it and filter it depending on what you want. So for example, you want these particular SKUs to show in the product set and push it dynamically. Or you want any product that is above $10 price-wise and push it in the dynamic ads, etc., etc. So there are also like endless combination options and filtering options that you can use when creating product sets, depending on, again, on the strategy that you have. And this is an example of a catalog setup. Maybe it would help you visualize it even better. So once you upload the feed that has all your inventory, and it has obviously like specific fields that you need to fill, you would create a product set, and then from that product set you can also create like other product sets as well, again depending on your strategy. It can be women's collection from $30 to $50. It can be women's collection for high margin. It could be summer collection, just like I mentioned earlier, and then you can push those and see which one would work better. And then finally, when it comes to dynamic ads, just make sure that you have the right image specs so that the ads actually show on both Facebook and Instagram platforms. These are just like details that you can go through after this session is over. And of course, if you have any question, please let me know. It's a bit technical, so I'm not going to dwell on this, but that's it in a nutshell for today. If you guys have any more questions, I can stay for like 5 more minutes or 10 more minutes if you have any questions.
I will.
Irina has a question, yeah.
No, I just wanted to say thank you so much for this. I think a lot of it definitely went over my head because I'm not so, we definitely have a digital marketing person who is trying to help us out with all of this. But I think what will be useful at some point is once we're ready to do something very specific, then, you know, come to you for like, you know, some like hands-on direction and questions, because I think a lot of it, like even some of the data we have, it's for like the US market and not for like the Middle East. So trying to see like, I think one of the questions, for example, that has been even for me personally, like I would love to retarget, for example, some people that we know are like return customers or following us, that I know we can create something very specific to retarget, and we don't know like, you know, some of the technical details with it. So yeah, we'll probably come back to you if that's okay, with some very specific, you know, questions, if that's all right.
Yes.
And this my
Yeah,
girl
of
on the
course.
back.
Of course, definitely. I think we can, you can coordinate with Sinead, and we can set something up, definitely.
Yeah, thank you.
Amazing. Any more questions? And sorry for the delay coming online, guys. That was my fault with my internet over here at the greenhouse. When you work here a few days, you will get to understand that as much of tech savvy as we'd like to be, the internet still fails us every now and again. Any other questions? All good? Okay, well, I have this session recorded anyway. Mia, as always, thank you for your time and presence. It's been amazing.
Thank you
And
so much.
I will share the recording with all of you guys as well. I'm actually doing a block email for you all. So all the last 3 to 4 sessions, you're going to get all the video links and the feedback form as well.
Thank you, Mia.
Thanks,
Okay.
everyone.
Thank
Thank you, Mia. Thank you.
Thanks a million.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Founders, can you stay on for a second? Thank
Sure.
you.
Yep.
Thanks, Mia.